Chen Ling was both happy and worried. She was happy that Han Sen had promised to participate, while worried that Aoyang had refused to participate. If Aoyang and Han Sen could join forces, maybe Blackhawk could be the champion of the Skynet competition. Although this game was not that important, but Blackhawk had not been a champion in a long time. This championship would still be a big comfort to her, a part-time coach of the Martial Arts Society. Suddenly Chen Ling saw Aoyang coming through the door and quickly walked to him. Aoyang, I know the old players' retirement reflect negatively on our results, but you need to give the young players a chance to grow. Count me in, cut in Aoyang before Chen could finish. Do not rush to refuse. You listen to me, we have invited Han Sen in the match against Saint Germain. If you, Chen Ling suddenly realized what he had said and was surprised. You just said you will participate. If you have the form, Aoyang said indifferently. Chen Ling quickly asked someone to bring him the application. They could not imagine how his mind was changed. Because I lost to Han Sen and he told me to. Aoyang filled the form out, but Chen Ling and the members of Martial Arts Society were shocked. How many rounds did you play? Zhu Kaiyan asked. 5, Aoyang casually replied. So that is 3-2. Zhu Kaiyan continued to ask. 5-0. He was 5, and I was 0, Aoyang said, giving the form that he had filled out to Zhu Kaiyan, who opened his mouth so wide that it could fit a duck egg. 5-0, Han Sen did that. Not only all members of the Martial Arts Society were dumbfounded, but Chen Ling also looked surprised. The worst score Aoyang had seen was 1-4, and his opponent was someone who ranked first in black and white boxing in the alliance. Brother Han Sen saw an attractive woman after he stepped out of a gravity trainer. Hyunfu Pinking, why are you here? Han Sen paused and asked. Not being a Blackhawk student, Hyunfu was not supposed to show up here. I am studying as an exchange student at Blackhawk. In the next 2 years, I will stay here. Hyunfu looked at Han Sen with a smile. In order to come to Blackhawk, she spent quite some efforts. Han Sen thought it was a bit too coincidental. Seems that Brother Han would not welcome me. Hyunfu leaned forward, blinking at Han Sen. Han Sen then noticed that Hyunfu was wearing a pair of jeans, Chelsea boots, and a low-cut ecru blouse that showed a little too much, making the young man feel hot. That is quite busty, thought Han Sen, unable to move his eyes from her seductive curve. The last time he saw her, she was wearing beast soul armor, so it was hard to tell. But this time in clothing like this, her breasts would attract so much attention, not just from guys, but from girls as well. Hyunfu saw Han Sen's eyes fall on her chest, and slightly leaned further. Suddenly Han Sen thought his nose would bleed if he did not leave right away. Ms. Hyunfu, do you need me for something? Han Sen subconsciously rubbed his nose, for fear that there would be blood. Nothing important, just to say hi. I just arrived and there must be a lot that I don't know. Please help me if you could. Hyunfu smiled. Han Sen was dazed by her look and figure. Of course, Han Sen suddenly felt it would be best if he stayed away from her. Also, 2 days until the auction of beast souls in steel armor shelter. Brother Han, you must come. Hyunfu blinked. I will, but I'm wondering about the form of payment in the auction. Han Sen had sold a lot of stuff recently, plus his salary and endorsement fee. He had a total of more than 60 million. But it was obviously not enough to get a sacred blood beast soul with this kind of money. As long as the beast soul was not too shabby, it could easily sell at more than 100 million. Not to mention Son of Heaven, who was super rich, was also in the steel shelter, and Han Sen was no match to his in terms of wealth. Leave $dollars work, and you can also barter. Hyunfu smiled at Han Sen. If you saw something you like, you could let me know and I could keep it for you. Han Sen thought, I haven't even seen the beast souls. How would I know? Hyunfu saw through his mind and shook her hand in front of him. Her breasts were also moving and Han Sen almost passed out. There is the information of the beast souls in the auction. Let me know if you like something and I can keep it. Hyunfu put the chip in his hands. You mean it? Han Sen was so happy that he wanted to insert the chip into his comlink right away. Don't rush, and this is not the best place to talk about things. This information is still a commercial secret at this point and we don't want others to see. Let's go, I will buy you lunch. Then, Hyunfu held the Han Sen's arm and took Han Sen out. Han Sen felt the softness on his arm and went blank. Sister, I will buy you lunch. Han Sen felt that he was molested during this meal. Hyunfu sat next to him. When she spoke, her lips were almost touching his ears. The warmth from her breath ticked him. However, he was not thinking about the woman, but the beast souls. Hyunfu and her people were selling the beast souls that they had brought to steel armor shelter, and made quite some money. But those were only the primitive beast souls, and the beast souls for auction were at least mutant. Han Sen did not look carefully at mutant beast souls and directly turned to two sacred blood ones. One was a flying beast soul called Holy Bird, which was a pair of colorful wings, and the other one was a beast soul weapon that Han Sen had always wanted. It was a shiny silver harpoon only 2 feet long. Its blade and the tip were so shaped that it made one feel scared by looking at it. Han Sen fell in love with the harpoon at first glance. A harpoon required harder techniques than a dagger and was a very rare weapon. Han Sen was very interested in the sacred blood harpoon and checked its name. He then asked Hyungfu, "Sister, how much is the 3-blade harpoon?" Hyungfu sat up and said, "In principle, the 2 sacred blood ones had to be shown at the auction. But if you want it, I can sell it to you beforehand. In that case, we would have to trade with the estimated price. I am not the sole owner of the business and can do nothing about that. How much is it?" Han Sen asked again. Hyungfu took out her comlink and showed Han Sen the price list. When Han Sen saw the price of the harpoon, he said bitterly, 230 million, that I cannot afford that. All his property added up to more than 60 million, and he had 3 warframes. He did not plan to sell Silver Killer and the blue SKTS. Even if he sold the other SKTS, it would be an additional 70 million, which would still cover the price of the harpoon. The estimated price is certainly very high, mainly because this time Son of Heaven will be attending. Hyungfu said, "If you really want it, I could give you an employee discount, after which it would be 180 million. Han Sen then understood the immense profit margin in the beast soul industry and also learned how much a sacred blood beast soul was worth. "If you are willing to sign a contract and work for our company for 2 years, then the 3-blade harpoon can be paid as the salary to you," Hyungfu said slowly, looking at Han Sen. Han Sen hesitated and then laughed. "I did not know that I would be worth 100 million per year." Hyungfu said, "Even if you are the spokesperson of SKTS, I would not pay that kind of money to hire you. But after I saw your ability in Devil Desert, I know you will be a great help for us to do business in other shelters. Do you want to join us?" The reason why she went through the troubles to come to Blackhawk was to hire Han Sen. "Thank you, sister, but I can't agree to the terms." Han Sen did not hesitate to refuse her. Although her people would travel to other shelters and run into advanced creatures, for business's sake, they would avoid risks, and that was not what Han Sen wanted. "Well, let's change the subject then. Whenever you change your mind, you can always come to me." Hyungfu opened a bottle of wine and poured it into their glasses. Taking a sip, Hyungfu held her glass and said, "As a member of the company, I have finished the work talk, and now we can talk about private matters." "What are the private matters?" Han Sen looked at her puzzled. Hyungfu suddenly hugged Han Sen's arm and asked with a charming smile, "Brother Han, do you have a girlfriend? If not, would you consider me?" Han Sen spewed the wine he just sipped on Hyungfu. Then he quickly took some paper towel to wipe it off her, but felt something was wrong. Under the paper towel were the magnificent boobs, which were bouncing when he wiped them. Hyungfu's cheeks turned crimson. Hyungfu bit her lip and gave Han Sen a fierce stare, covering her wet blouse with her hands. Han Sen quickly took off his jacket and put it on Hyungfu, covering the great view. "Sister, now it's late and we should get back. We can talk next time we meet," Han Sen said. Leaving the private room embarrassed, Hyungfu thought of the places where Han Sen stroked and her face was red like a piece of red cloth. Han Sen walked away and looked at his hands. That was magnificent. Hyungfu was a calculating woman, and Han Sen was very sharp. When he touched her boobs, she had a sudden urge to kill him. Although she tried to hold it back, he still sensed it. And Han Sen also glanced at her comlink, which was blinking, and was likely to be recording. If he did anything else and she taped it and showed it to Jai Yanran, he would be seeking small gains at great costs. No, it should be seeking big gains. Han Sen corrected himself in his mind. Jai Yanrans were not small either, but somewhat smaller than Hyungfu. Wen Zixu was now very unhappy. As an intern host and journalist of Black and White Boxing Contest show, she was assigned to work for the famous Fang Minquin. Originally, with her qualifications, she could not have been assigned to shadow Fang Minquin, who was a big shot right now. The only reason she was here was her prominent family. She had thought she could show the world her talent under Fang's guidance. However, the first task Fang had assigned to her was to go to Blackhawk Military Academy. This black and white boxing competition on Skynet was sponsored by a well-known gaming platform, and all famous military schools had been invited to participate. Wen Zixu expected to be assigned to the schools that had ranked first or second last year, but Fang insisted that she go Blackhawk, which was not even in top 16 last time. Although she had argued, Fang Minquin still sent her there and said there would be a surprise. After Wen Zixu had done the interviews, she had even less faith in Blackhawk since she did not even see Aoyang Ziosin during the interview. Well, I will just read more about St. Germain and talk more about them during the live. Wen Zixu returned the room arranged for her on campus, casually wrote a newsletter, and checked St. Germain's team online. She was doing a black and white boxing show because of her interest in it. Coach Chen, what do you think of this match? Black and white boxing is one of St. Germain's strengths, not to mention Nalan Chengyuo's fame. What plan or strategy do you have? Wen Zixu asked Chen Ling. No plan or strategy needed. Blackhawk will win, period. Chen Ling said casually. Chen Ling's answer made Wen Zixu pause. She could not begin to understand Chen's confidence, because Chen Ling's answer was beyond her imagination. Her prepared materials were now useless. Mr. Aoyang, I would like your opinion on Nalan Chengyuo. Wen Zixu finally found a chance to interview Aoyang Ziosin. I don't know him. Aoyang did not even lift his eyes. Wen Zixu had no idea that her interviews had caused a debate in the Skynet. Fang Mingquan sent Wen Zixu to Blackhawk not to fool her. Wen Zixu was from an important family, and as someone who cared about his future, Fang Mingquan had to take good care of her. He knew Han Sen would also participate in the game, and that was why he had sent Wen to Blackhawk. The moment Wen's show began, he promoted it in his own show, and many of his loyal fans and audience tuned to her program. Fang Mingquan was now doing great. All his shows had been successful. As he promoted Wen's show, Wen suddenly had more than 10 million audience watching. It chanced that one of the St. Germain players was a fan of Fang Mingquan's and was watching his show in the lounge. Seeing the show promoted by Fang Mingquan was the live show of their match, he clicked in and became livid. Blackhawk, you think you are good. Wait till you see how we kick your asses, Wang Yongjun thought ruthlessly. St. Germain and Blackhawk had always been foes. In the most important martial arts games, St. Germain had kept Blackhawk from entering top 8 multiple times. Seeing a loser so arrogant made Wang Yongjun mad. Chengyuo, come to see this. Wang Yongjun walked to Nalan Chengyuo and played that interview bit again. The Blackhawk team must be out of their mind. Liu Yunsheng sneered after watching. An illusionary. Ma Chengkong laughed. Poor things. Wang Yongjun also laughed. Nalan Chengyuo glanced at the video, blinked and did not speak. He narrowed his eyes and kept eating the jelly in his hand. Chengyuo, you are eating too much jelly. It might give you diabetes. Wang Yongjun looked at Nalan's flawless skin jealously. Diabetes. That is an ancient disease. Liu Yunsheng laughed. The team talked and laughed, not taking Blackhawk seriously. In fact, this year, St. Germain was especially strong in black and white boxing. They not only had a star player, Nalan Chengyuo, but also had 3 other players in the top 20, plus the newly recruited talent Lai Yu. St. Germain was very likely to win the championship of the Military Academy League game. This Skynet competition should be a piece of cake for them. The only threat to them in Blackhawk was Aoyang Ziosin, who was no match to Nalan and not much better than the rest in St. Germain. Chengyuo, how about you go first this time and give them a 5-0 to teach them a lesson. Soon the first lineups of both teams were shown, and first up were St. Germain's 5 members. Wow, these are the best they got. They are not giving Blackhawk any chance to fight back. I don't think this is necessary when they are against Blackhawk. Nalan alone could nail it. As everyone was talking, the player list of Blackhawk was also shown. With a glance, people were attracted by the first ID name they saw, Black Fist Emperor. Black Fist Emperor, who is so arrogant to use this ID. Strange, I have never heard of the ID. Blackhawk is so good at bragging, even with their IDs. Black Fist Emperor, I think it is more like Kick My Ass Emperor. Haha, he's the first. We will see how this emperor was overthrown. The St. Germain players were also upset with this ID, as it implied they would be ruled by him. Black Fist Emperor is a bench player of Team Blackhawk. His real name is Han Sen, 16, freshman, never been in a black and white boxing match before. It seems he has no experience and is a new player. When read out Han Sen's information. How can a new guy be so arrogant? After the beginning of the game, both sides sent their first players to log in, and Wen Zixu introduced Han Sen first. Jai Yanran listened to her and was even more upset. What's with this host? She interviewed us, and why is she on the other side? She must be out of her mind. Lily was also annoyed. In fact, after Fang Mingquan heard Wen Zixu's commentary, his face became grim. He meant well when he sent her to do this show and did not expect her to take such a stand. Fang Mingquan immediately called her. Wen, you are doing the show in Blackhawk and should take their stand. If it was not because of her family, he would have said something harsh by this time. Mr. Fang, I think that the commentator should take a neutral point of view. Since Blackhawk is the weaker team, I can't lie, right? Well, then based on what you believe, which team do you think will win? Blackhawk would lose miserably, Wen did not hesitate to say. In fact, she still held some grudge that Fang sent her here. So what if I say Blackhawk will win? Fang Mingwen asked softly. That won't happen. Wen was doing the show because she liked black and white boxing. No matter how she thought about it, Blackhawk would not win. Mr. Fang, you think that Blackhawk will win? Wen now had doubts about the professional level of Fang. Whoever had the slightest understanding of black and white boxing should know that Blackhawk could not win. Blackhawk will not only win, but their victory would also be overwhelming, Fang Mingwen said with a certain tone and hung up. Now Wen was regretting that she had requested to work for Fang. She used to admire his capability and had used her family connections to get into Huaxing Station. But now the professional skills that Fang Mingwen demonstrated were simply disappointing. This team competition took the form of an arena race. If the first player won the first round, he could stay on and fight the next player in the other team until he was beaten. Such a game system allowed the situation where one player fought 5. After the game began, Han Sen threw a punch, and his holographic image online was synchronized, hitting Lai Yu's image. The professional equipment could scan Han Sen's body so that it could tell the strength he had put into the punch. Once the strength used passed a certain level, the punch would be considered a black fist. Otherwise, it would be considered white. But the scanning data were invisible to the players, and they would only know the result after. Lai Yu calmly stared at Han Sen. This punch was very fierce, but Lai stood still and did not even try to block. Lai was very confident of his own judgment. Han Sen's punch looked like a black fist, but from some of the details, he could tell that it was a carefully disguised white fist, and no real strength had been put into it. Because it was on the Skynet, Han Sen could not hurt him for real, so he did not even bother to defend himself. Windtalker was just a new player, but we can tell that he is very skilled and confident in his own judgment. Wen Zixu praised Lai Yu because she had made the same judgment. An average person might believe this to be a black fist, but she had studied black and white boxing and could tell from the details that it was indeed a white fist. But before Wen finished her sentence, an explosion sounded and Han Sen's fist had landed on Lai Yu's face. The system automatically showed the special effect of the black fist, blowing Lai Yu's image away. For a moment, everyone was dazed, including Wen Zixu and the Saint Germain players. The comments became scarce online. There are consequences for making my girlfriend mad. Han Sen's eyes were cold. He had wanted a close victory so that it would not attract him too much attention. But now he had changed his mind. In addition, he had also got a kiss waiting for him. So, he would show no mercy. Haha, why have the Saint Germain team stopped commenting? Genius, well done. Blackhawk students became thrilled. Although they were not many, they soon filled the gap of the comments. Jai Yanran was more excited than everyone else. Her face flushed, she waved her fist and cried, "Now you don't dare to talk nonsense, do you? Impossible. That punch was clearly a white fist." Lai Yu's face was dark. "You, don't let down your guard. It seems that their new guy has some skills," Zhu Yundi urged Lai Yu. Lai Yu was a young talent who he thought could reach the level of Nellen, and he lost a point to Blackhawk's new guy, which was somewhat embarrassing for him. "Yes, coach," Lai Yu answered, took a deep breath, and once again turned to his opponent. Each round was best of 5, and Lai Yu had only lost a point. The game began again. Wen Zixu continued to explain, "Looks like Black Fist Emperor was quite lucky, getting the first point. It must be because Lai Yu was not paying attention." Bang! Before Wen finished, Lai Yu was once again sent into the air. The system also played the special effect of him being sent to the galaxy. Wen Zixu was stunned, and so were the viewers. If they could explain Lai's first loss with his carelessness, the second loss was hard to justify. Those who were arguing with the Blackhawk students suddenly stopped. All that was left in the comments was support to Blackhawk. "Good job. This is a true Black Fist. Where did this Black Fist Emperor come from?" 2 consecutive Black Fists, and Windtalker could not tell either. "Loser. That kid was trying to play tough and did not even block. Even the special effect changed. Haha. Our genius is the best." Wen Zixu did not dare to comment anymore. When Lai Yu came to the stage again, she was not as confident as she had been. Black Fist Emperor is a very good player, and this will be a fight between 2 powerful teams. Boom. Another loud bang. Lai Yu did raise his arms this time, so the special effect was not as dramatic. But the system still showed his image sliding backward more than 30 feet. There were even sparks from the friction. Although it was only a virtual special effect, many still got excited over it. #T. 3 consecutive Black Fists and Windtalker was gone. So impressive. 3 consecutive black fists and Windtalker did not see it coming. Where is he from? Wow, the scent. Germain player was eliminated with 0 point by a new player at Blackhawk. Young players do not have the psychological quality. He lost the first point and continued to make mistakes and forgot to dodge. That was just a new player. What you are proud of. Next round Wang Yongjun would show you scent. Germain's strength. Young people cannot be trusted with important tasks because they lack experience. You, what's wrong? The other player had been using black fists. Why didn't you dodge? Zhu Yundi was upset. His favorite student was eliminated 0-3. That was a shame on him. I am sorry, coach. Liu was bitter. He knew that it was likely that his opponent would repeatedly use black fist, but no matter how he saw it, he still felt Han Sen was using white fist and could not bring himself to move away. Liu thought Han Sen was going to use black fist, but his judgment told him it was a white fist. In the end, his judgment trumped his instinct, and that was why he had lost. Do not be sad. I will avenge you. Wang Yongjun laughed, patted Li's shoulder and went up. Remember, since his name is Black Fist Emperor, he must be very confident in his black fists. Black Fist Emperor, I will reduce you to Black Fist Eunuch. Wang Yongjun stood opposite Han Sen confidently. Because it was an arena match, Wang Yongjun followed Liu to become the second player and was automatically determined to be the defensive side, which was also a compensation mechanism for the party which had to fight continuously. Windtalker is lacking in experience, but Wang Yongjun is a veteran, so that Black Fist Emperor's tactics would not work that easily. The game started again. Han Sen threw a punch out that looked extremely fierce. Wang Yongjun looked carefully and felt just like Liu did. From many details he could tell it should be a white fist, and he should not dodge. However, after watching the match between Liu and Han Sen, Wang told himself that was how Liu lost, and I cannot make the same mistake. Then he moved backward to avoid the punch from Han Sen. Wang Yongjun is worthy of his fame. His tactical goal is clear and his execution is also in place. This blow should be. When Wen Zixu was in the middle of her passionate commentary, she suddenly stopped. Beep. Han Sen's fist froze in the air, and a sign of a white fist lit up. How could it be a white fist? Wen Zixu shouted out loud, her eyes wide. Damn, I should have believed that my judgment was right. Wang Yongjun bitterly swinged his arm, regretting. Yongjun, what are you doing? Do not get confused, and believe in your own judgment. Zhu Yundi shouted to Wang Yongjun anxiously. Wang Yongjun gritted his teeth and went up for the second punch. Watching Han Sen's fist approaching, Wang Yongjun saw clearly that like the last blow, this one was also a white fist judging from the hardly noticeable details. Boy, you want to use the same trick twice. You can't get me like this. Wang Yongjun stood upright and reached out a hand to block Han Sen's fist. With my experience, I could deal with this boy simply by using my instinct. Bang! Han Sen's punch fell on the hand of Wang Yongjun, and Wang was suddenly thrown away. He rolled in the air and thumped to the ground. Black fist. It turned out to be a black fist. At this time, the St. Germain's supporters became silent and so did Wen Zixu, forgetting to comment. Bang! There was no suspense. Wang Yongjun was eliminated 0-3. And this was just the start of this madness. Liu Yinsheng and Ma Changkong, who followed Wang, simply could not stop Han Sen's performance. 3-0, still 3-0. 3-0 in 4 rounds. The audience's comments had become wild. My god, who is this guy? Black Fist Emperor, so domineering. Even players in top 20 like Wang Yongjun, Ma Changkong, and Liu Yinsheng were unable to get a single point. Cruel, it is too cruel. Black Fist Emperor, where did such a guy come from? Han Sen. The name seems ring a bell. He is our genius at Blackhawk and spokesperson of SKTS. How can you be so dumb no knowing him? So it is him. I just searched the Skynet. Wow, isn't he driving Warframes? How come he is also so great at black and white boxing? 4 of the St. Germain team members were already eliminated by a new guy. Blackhawk will not only win, but their victory would also be overwhelming. Thinking of Fang Mingquan's words, Wen felt bitter and ashamed. Nalan Chengyuo, there is still him, the number 2 player in the alliance. He had lost to none but that person. He will not lose. Thinking of the last player of St. Germain, Wen Zixu felt like she had grabbed on the last remaining gambits. Nalan Chengyuo, the best martial arts student St. Germain had ever seen, had shown excellence in various competitions. In addition to black and white boxing, he could rank top 3 in almost every item he had signed up for, and his overall ranking in the Military Academy League martial arts tournament. His skills were beyond the level of a military school student. Nalan was even more popular than the chosen in military schools. Nalan, this one you must win, Zhu Yundi said grimly. "Hello, I am Nalan." Standing opposite Han Sen, Nalan Chengyuo greeted his opponent. His ID was simply Nalan. "Hello, I am the Black Fist Emperor. If you feel it's too long, you can call me Emperor," Han Sen said with a smile. Chen Ling's hands were sweaty. She knew Han Sen was strong, but did not realize he could eliminate 4 members from St. Germain. But even so, Chen Ling was still very nervous. After all, now Han Sen had to face Nalan, who was a legend in the Military Academy League. Nalan had lost to no one but the monster from the Alliance Central Military Academy, especially in the black and white boxing. Even the guy from the Alliance Central Military Academy only beat him 3-2. According to a well-known black and white boxing expert, Nalan had a pure mind, and it seemed that he had some kind of ability to see through the false. Any disguise in front of him was useless, so it was almost impossible to cheat him. And Han Sen was clearly a player very good at cheating. Theoretically speaking, Nalan was undoubtedly Han Sen's nemesis. That was why Chen Ling is worried. "Lily, can he beat Nalan?" Jai Yanran tightly grabbed Lily's arm and asked. Although she did not pay much attention to martial arts contests, Nalan Chengyuo was so famous that even she had heard about him. Although Jai Yanran believed in her boyfriend, she was still so nervous that her palms were sweaty. This is really hard to say. If the opponent is someone else, the genius will definitely win. But Nalan, Lily also hesitated. "So what? Sen will certainly win," Shi Jiking cried. "Sen is someone that will only be beaten by me, and before I do, no one can beat him," Zhang Yong said. Lu Meng smiled. "Sister-in-law, you rest assured. Sen will not lose." This made Jai Yanran blush, but also made her feel more relaxed. On the Skynet, a middle-aged man was also watching the match between Han Sen and Nalan. This middle-aged man was named Bai Yishan. He was a rare surpasser at his age. Bai Yishan was famous among surpassers not only because he had many Geno points, but also because he was among the few that could be called martial arts master. Bai Yishan came from an aristocrat family. Since childhood he had been obsessed with martial arts. Dedicated to the research work of hyper-Geno arts, he was also a professor, and the youngest Meister at the St. Hall. Many S-class Super Geno arts came from his research. Meanwhile, he also taught at the Alliance Central Military Academy, and enjoyed a high prestige in the military and Alliance. In his busy schedule, the reason for him to take time to watch such a game held on the Skynet was not his interest in the black and white boxing game itself. In the eyes of a surpasser, this kind of game was simply like children playing house. What intrigued him to watch was Nalan Chengyuo. Recently, Bai had been doing research on a hyper-Geno art called Yin-Yang Blast, whose concepts were complex, but did share some similarities with black and white boxing. It was also about yin and yang forces. The birth of each hyper-Geno art had to witness a lot of experiments. Otherwise it would not be allowed to be sold or promoted at St. Hall. If a hyper-Geno art involved a great risk, it would be classified as banned and could not be sold. Yin-Yang Blast that Bai Yishan was studying was one of the hyper-Geno arts that was demanding on those who practiced it. Although the practice of the hyper-Geno art did not involve too much risk, it might generate risks in using. But Yin-Yang Blast had cost Bai Yishan nearly 10 years of hard work. And if he hadn't found an incomplete ancient copy of the magic of Yin and Yang, he would never have been able to invent Yin-Yang Blast, which was very unique and powerful. Its only flaw was that it was too demanding on the user's prejudgment abilities. The 2 volunteers from the military who had practiced Yin-Yang Blast all ran into issues when using it in combats. One had died and one became disabled. Yin-Yang Blast was about to be classified as banned. But after all, this is what Bai Yishan had come up with, and he did not want to see Yin-Yang Blast buried. That was why he tried his best to get another chance of experiment. In order to ensure the success of this experiment, Bai Yishan needed to pick a person that he thought could control Yin-Yang Blast. After a lot of screening, Bai Yishan had his eyes on Nalan Chengyuo. What Nalan was practicing was a Kala mantra, so his faith was immovable and he had a great perspective on Yin and Yang. But Bai Yishan was only listing Nalan as a candidate and had not decided. This time he was trying to determine whether Nalan would be a good fit by watching the black and white boxing game, which despite its simple form, shows the fundamentals of yin and yang. Before Nalan showed up, Han Sen's performance had amazed Bai Yishan. It was not how strong he was or how well he had mastered the yin and yang forces, but his ability of psychological gaming and prejudgment that made Bai Yishan regret not seeing the boy earlier. This kind of ability is so rare and perfect for Yin-Yang Blast. If he was not just lucky, he should be the one. Bai Yishan knew how valuable Han Sen's abilities were. This required both talent and effort, and among the people he had met, Han Sen was the best in this aspect so far. Bai Yishan listed Nalan as a candidate exactly because of his ability to see through his opponent's thought. But now he could tell that Han Sen was even better at that. Let me see how well you could do. Bai Yishan watched the game, interested in the online black and white boxing competition. After Han Sen observed Nalan, he threw a punch as fierce as an uncaged tiger. In Nalan's eyes as clear as water flashed a trace of surprise. He grew up practicing a Kala mantra and had a mind that was like a mirror. No fiber or dust could pass unnoticed. Although he was still very young, he had a character